Welcome, everyone. 2023. My name is Jim Case, and I'm the Chief Terminologist at SNOMED International. I'll be moderating today's session. All questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. Online attendees, please use the Q&A button to type your questions to the presenter. And on-site attendees, please use the microphone in the center of the room. I'm now pleased to introduce Mark Czotter from B2I, who will be presenting Streamlining Upgrade for Efficient Reference Set Maintenance. Mark, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Czotter, and I'm from Hungary B2I Healthcare. And before I jump into the nitty-gritty details of how RefSets can be maintained over time with the incoming changes from the SNOMED International Edition and other NRC editions, I'd like to emphasize that this is a joint effort with NHS England and especially with Jeremy Rogers, who made most of the contributions to this work. And I think it just cannot be done without him. It's his last 15 years of maintaining and handling all the issues of simple type and query type reference sets was just a huge success, I think, and we have to learn from him. And I'd like to thank you, Jeremy. Let's go. And first, I'd like to bring a few slides about how SNOMED City is growing over the years and evolving. I think Jim already showed us in the keynote some of the numbers, how many concepts are being added to the SNOMED International Edition and how many concepts get a description change, modeling change, and basically a change in the upcoming editions. I'd like to point out the number of inactivated concepts in both the SNOMED International and the UK monolith extensions that are being constantly inactivated over time in each month. These could have a big impact on your reference sets. And I'd like to point out that these concepts are, while inactive and should not be used according to the editorial guidance, in terms of reference sets, they might need to be used still, and you might have to rely on those for a period of time when you find a suitable replacement for those inactive concepts. The number of new concepts is quite a challenging aspect as well, because if you have an intentional or extensional definition, you might want to add new concepts to that definition over time. If you made a reference set back in 2011 and it was consisted of 100 clinical finding concepts, it might happen that those findings are just either obsolete or you need to add more to that set because new concepts got introduced that maybe have a more better modeling, a more better description, or something that will improve and supercharge your reference sets. In terms of the NHS England ecosystem, this is a huge extension. NHS England is based on the SNOMED International Edition, which is also like 360,000 concepts. And they have a small layer of United Kingdom Edition, which is just a bunch of metadata concepts. On top of that, they have a clinical extension and a drug extension with an enormous amount of concepts that are drug concepts. They have a large number of RefSets being maintained. 2 of them are being maintained by their respective terminology authoring teams, and 1 is being maintained in the organization, but in a different department. And they have a basically unknown amount of value sets lying around in the UK, somewhere in a clinical system, when a doctor decided to do a value set and create it back in the time, and they could be affected or not. We just don't know yet. So it's just basically, we don't know the actual number of resources they need to handle with an incoming upgrade. The challenges we face is, the first is coordination. Given the fact that this is a huge extension and a huge number of resources, project managers, terminology authors, subject matter experts, and basically everywhere in the UK, someone has to take a look into that upgrade or incoming changes and make a decision whether this is going to make an impact on them or not. These are just a few numbers about they decided to do of an 8 weeks migration period to complete the migration from an SI upgrade to a newer core content upgrade. So this was primarily for their core content, which is just clinical, and they annually release the clinical extension currently. And this is 2 weeks for their 30,000 concepts and for their reference sets. They do it simultaneously. So while the core content is being upgraded, they actually do handle the references as well. So they are not trying to do something like doing the core content first in 8 weeks, then you have 6 weeks to do the ref set upgrades. They are trying to do as much parallelism put into this effort as possible. On average, they have 50, 60 reference sets that are being affected in some way based on the upcoming SNOMED International upgrade. What we've seen is that guidelines are often missing from how to handle retired content. What will happen to your reference set when there's an inactive reference? It is still in the early process that new concepts are rarely being visited. They don't have the time to actually do this kind of work put into the ref sets, so they do just a so-called technical upgrade, which is maintain the current set as much as possible and don't look at the new concepts yet. Staff shortages and the continuous requirement of an IT personnel to be there is just another challenge. I brought 2 examples from the past, and these were provided by Jeremy as well. This is a post-COVID assessment service reference set, which had a reference to a concept 6-minute walk test, which is a procedure concept. This got inactivated in July 2021 and got replaced by an observable entity 6-minute walk test distance. And Jeremy said, why this could be okay for someone to actually replace by this concept. It turns out they need the actual procedure to be represented, the 6-minute walk test as well, and not just the test distance they took. And this is a semantic tag change in terms of the concept. And it took 1.5 years to get it reactivated back in SNOMED International. The other is more scarier. It is regarding administration of childhood vaccine. And the concepts got inactivated in a 2020 release. Some of the concepts had a replacement, some of them were not. And they had a very comprehensive reference set where they just about to see a collapse of their clinical care system in this regard if they do the upgrade immediately without taking a look actually how these concepts need to be replaced or recreated even in their extension before just doing the upgrade. And it took months to them to identify not just in their department, but actually in the entire UK who can be affected of these few inactivations. So how about we take a look at a more streamlined approach of upgrade and a few best practices we have learned in the last 2-3 years. I'm going to focus on simple and query type reference set, but it doesn't mean that these kind of best practices can be brought into other kinds of resources that are actually referencing SNOMED CT content. So the first is with everything that's when there's a change, you have to notify people. That is the most primary aspect of this presentation as well, that if this is something you take home, then please take this home, notify everyone who can be affected, and somehow try to allocate time to let people know that something is going to happen, and they might know better that something that is about to happen can affect them, and they will let you know as well. You can automatically validate, analyze, and report the incoming changes, the characteristics, the number of resources that are being that could be affected, and you can visualize them in user interfaces or Excel reports or basically anywhere that this is going to happen with your extension, with your reference sets. Send this information to everywhere. In order to handle an extension this big, we had to come up with an idea of reference set collections. There's guidance how to do a single derivative work or single derivative reference set in SNOMED City. When you have a extension this big, you just can't do it one by one. You have to do it together. Mainly for large number of ref sets, you have to analyze, maintain, and upgrade them together and release all at once. This means that there are no patch releases or just fixing one ref set. You handle them all at once. The key point is that you have to categorize them into smaller collections, but these are still collections, and they can be handled by individuals who are responsible for that domain context or usage context. Yeah, they require a single SNOMED City edition releases dependency and a module, because they produce simple type members and the query type reference set for intentional definitions. Once you have a decision on the upgrade and you have decided to take it and all of the stakeholders agreed to it, then you start the upgrade. You select the next version. You know that this is going to be my new SNOMED International version, and you start the upgrade process. The original version of your resources are still there, so it's not something that's thrown away. You can still access them. Each resource gets a dedicated, fully isolated work area where you can maintain the inactive references, maintain the changes. And if you don't like them, throw it away, let the stakeholders know that this is not going to happen, and we will move on and we'll do the upgrade later. Once you have the foundation set up, you have to prepare a couple of things, like because you have 800 reference sets, you just have to automate things. Like you can automate the assignments of the authors who are responsible for a specific reference set. And for each upgrade, you can use that assignment always. So once you have an expertise in a certain area, a certain reference set, you can apply that in the upcoming upgrades as well in the future. The other is when you have 800 reference sets, but only 50, 60 are being affected by the incoming upgrade, you can mark them as done and complete. And this will help the authors actually know that those are handled and we don't have to take a look into them, at least not right now. And reassign when needed, because staff shortages, IT assistance, and whatever can come into play. Once you have the assignments done and the workflow piece complete, you can start resolving issues. By resolving issues, we have taken a look at from a simple aspect that colors, we like colors. So let's identify all of the big problem areas with red and the less problem areas with just yellow and green, or whatever colors you like, flashing red, be it orange, whatever. It's just, let's mark them. It's easier to identify when you have 800 reference sets that these 3 are problematic and the others are not. You can take a look immediately. You don't have to take a look each of them and just check the report again. These are calculated from inactivated references and their nature. how many replacements they have, the membership differences. So for example, when you upgrade to a newer SNOMED International Edition, the substrate changed. So you have a bigger set of concepts to apply your query to, yeah. And this can change the number of descriptions number of members you have. Description and definition changes can also come into play. How to handle inactive concepts is a bigger problem, and I think we are going to talk about in the SNOMED language group and in other groups as well. There are basically 4 steps you can take. You can replace manually, that's the easiest, or you can automate things when there's a clear guidance to do that. Or for certain aspects, when you have an extension or reference set, you can just ignore the change, ignore the upcoming change, ignore it, keep the concept as is, use it as you like. It's still inactive, but you reference it, so it should be okay if you decide to do so. And the other aspect is often just reactivate. This requires an effort from your core extension team and between the reference set team, and that's another story. And keep integrating, reanalyzing, use daily builds to keep the certain resources and the terminology servers updated, rerun the analysis anytime you like, automate the reassignments and status transitions. So once something is done, you can automate it and mark it as done. Review, discuss, and document. That's the most important piece on this slide. It's just document everything you have. You will have a good understanding of this upgrade, and you can reuse those understandings in the forthcoming upgrades as well. Once you have it all together, it could look like this. It's just an idea of how an upgrade dashboard of an incoming SNOMED International Edition release can affect a 200-300 reference sets. You have a list of reference sets, the impact they got, the assignments, the current status, some kind of table that shows you the nature of the change, couple of statistics, and a finish button when you are ready to do so. And then when everything is done, it's just marked green and you are happy. So yeah, this is kind of a rushed way of telling how to do an upgrade, and especially it's not going to work like that in the real life. So what issues we faced and what future work we got is, I think we may have to change how we inactivate content. If in certain cases, it can happen that an inactivation is not okay with someone, then currently we just inactivate, do a replacement. If there is a replacement, okay. If not, that could be okay as well. But the notification is somehow missing. So someone that could be affected might not know that this is going to happen. And I might actually draw up this to the modeling advisory group to somehow introduce deprecation notices, pending inactivations, something that's actually let people know that this happened. Description modeling changes are just too big to at the moment understand. Do they really matter or not? Sometimes if you have just a synonym added to a concept, that's okay. But sometimes the modeling changed too much and the original intention of the reference set as in the first point changes. So you cannot rely on that reference concept anymore, and you have to rework, redesign. And as on this week, SNOMED language group, we have found out that most of the work here can be reused and repurposed in terms of post coordination and ECL maintenance, ECL query maintenance, because those are actually referenced in SNOMED content. And if those can get inactivated eventually, then you have to handle those as well, especially in post-coordinated concepts. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark will now take questions. As a reminder, if you're in the room, please use the microphone in the center of the room to ask your question.
Is that working?
Yep.
The traffic light system, you've got to say how significant it is. Is that based on like an absolute number or proportion? Like 100 inactivations could be a lot, or it could be insignificant.
Yeah, I think it depends on how your authoring team defines flashing red, or what is a
So you can
big
define
problem
that
area.
criteria.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
you can customize that. Jeremy said that one change is actually something you have to take care about, but I think he said that about 50, not 50, 25, you will get a flashing red, because that's just too much change to a reference set.
And I guess it depends what the reference that is as well.
Yeah, and we performed and upgraded to the NHS clinical reference set to a newer SNOMED international version, and almost all of the reference sets got a flashing red
Yep.
light. So
Okay,
that was something to handle and take care. So yeah.
thanks.
So we have a question here. What happens to the current upgrade process if a new official release gets published during the upgrade process?
Yeah, that's actually an issue, but there are ways to do it. Daily builds and interim releases can help actually keep up with the upgrade, and you can actually bring the upgrade state to the newer version. So you can keep the changes, keep the fixes as is, and just move over to the newly released version, and you don't have to redo all of your work again.
There any other questions from the audience? We have no questions online. So with that, we'll conclude this session. Thank you, Mark. And online delegates can join the next session through the event lobby. Thanks again.
Yeah.